Welcome to Real Clear Radio Hour, brought to you by the Competitive Enterprise Institute. I'm your host, Bill Frezza. This week, we talk futurism and genius. In the second half of our show, we'll speak with Ken Ono, professor of mathematics and computer science at Emory University and the author of My Search for Ramanujan, about the man who knew infinity. Up first, we'd like to welcome Kevin Kelly, co-founder and Senior Maverick at Wired magazine, to discuss his just-released book, The Inevitable: Understanding the 12 Technological Forces That Will Shape Our Future. Kevin, welcome to the show.
Hey, it's a pleasure to be here.
Kevin, for some time I've wanted to do a show on the incredible future artificial intelligence, ubiquitous connectivity, and robots will be opening up for the human race. The problem has been most of the guests suggested were neo-Luddite pessimists sounding apocalyptic warnings. I'd really like to thank you for bringing an optimistic view to the table, entirely consistent with the fact that every new tool mankind has ever invented in the past has brought us a better life. You open your new book with the observation that our ability to invent new things outpaces the rate we can civilize them. Explain.
I think that most of the problems we are suffering today has been caused by technologies in the past, and I predict that most of the problems in the future will be caused by technologies we're inventing today. However, I also believe that the solution to those problems, both past and future, is not less technology, but more and better technology.
So what is it that gives you confidence that we're not going to blow ourselves up or drown in gray goo or let loose some sort of a malevolent organism?
Well, I am an off-the-chart optimism, and my optimism is somewhat temperamental, but it's mostly based in history. Right now, there's kind of a general pessimism feel in America about that the future is pretty dark and not going to be as good for our children as for us. But I think that's completely ignoring the past. And if you take a really hard look at even the last 100 years, more a couple hundred years, but particularly the last 50 years, we are on this amazing trajectory, including even in the recent 5 years. But that evidence is sort of ignored when people look into the future. So I think that there's a high probability that we will continue this very slow incremental creep to betterness.
You state the truism that change is inevitable, from which you get the title of your book. What do you have to say to the politicians, unionists, economists, and philosophers who think they can stand athwart history yelling stop?
I think that they can block it temporarily, but in the very short-term future, that kind of prohibition only backfires and is counterproductive. It's like I'm looking at the kinds of general trends or biases in technology that lean in certain directions. I'm not really predicting a destination as much as a direction. Mm-hmm. And I'm saying that the very physics and chemistry and the dynamics of the technology itself has inherent biases, such as the Internet wants to copy things. It's the largest copy machine. If it can be copied, it will be copied. And you can't really fight against that. You have to kind of work with that. If you work with it, then you prosper. If you fight against it, you lag behind.
You organize your thoughts in your book around 12 subjects. We can't cover them all today, but let me list them and ask you to define them, if you can, with one sentence each. These subjects are becoming, cognifying, flowing, screening, accessing, sharing, filtering, remixing, interacting, tracking, questioning, and beginning. Take a shot at it.
So becoming is everything is in permanent flux and change, and we will be perpetual newbies.
I thought that's just because I was 60 years old.
You'll be a perpetual newbie when you're 80.
Okay, what about cognifying?
We're making everything a little bit smarter, and that intelligence is different from our own intelligence, and that's the main value. And we will buy this AI intelligence on the grid as if it was a commodity or electricity.
We're going to come back to that later. That's one of my favorite chapters. What do you mean by flowing?
We're depending on this sort of unstoppable stream in real time for everything, and the kinds of things that we normally found authoritative and dependable are now in flux as well.
So the next one definitely hits home because I've become totally paperless. Screening.
So we're turning all surfaces all flat surfaces especially, into screens that are rapidly changing their pixels. And this is kind of birthing a new visual literacy that's becoming the center of our culture. So we've progressed from being people of the book to people of the screen.
And yet your book points out people are doing more reading than ever.
Yes, this has nothing to do with screening words. It has to do with the fact that the words are always in the process of being updated.
So what do you mean by accessing?
The central tenet of capitalization was ownership, and we're now shifting from the benefits of owning to the benefits of accessing things. So if you can get to something anytime, anywhere you want, that's actually better than owning it.
That's related to the next topic you list, which is sharing.
Yeah. Sharing's been going on for a while. We're kind of realize what it is, but I think we're only at 0.1 on the sharing meter. And I think we're unleashing this sort of collaborative action at a new scale, almost a planetary scale, that it makes impossible things possible.
It's going to have profound impact on productivity.
It will, because we're now at the point where we can have 1 billion or 2 billion people working together on something in real time, and that was never possible before.
Your next one I haven't mastered yet, which is filtering. I feel like I'm awash in too much information.
Yes, we all are, and we're going to depend on other agents to actually, other technologies to actually help us navigate through the benefits of, the products of technology. It's also a way to think of kind of like intense personalization in order to help others anticipate our desires.
The next one presents challenges to our existing copyright regimes, remixing.
Everything is really a combination of different parts, and digital especially is very easily unbundled into its essential elements, which can then be remixed, rebundled into new things, and those new things you combine with others. And that infinite combinations is actually a source of great wealth.
The next one has both tremendous promise and raises some privacy fears, and that's tracking.
Tracking, I think, is much like copying. The internet is the world's largest tracking machine, and anything that can be tracked will be tracked if it touches the internet. And we're not going to really be able to stop the tracking. We can only tame it or domesticate it. And so it's something that we're going to have to work with rather than against.
What do you mean by questioning?
I think if you want a good answer, you ask a machine. Answers are now ubiquitous, cheap, and accurate. And what now becomes scarce and most valuable is a good question, which humans are really good at. Like people like you, for instance.
Well, it's the most fun thing in the world to ask smart people questions. And imagine if they were all remixed together in this great cloud in the sky. Finally, you finish your book with the word beginning.
I think that of all the things that I'm talking about, it's very unlikely that any of it will be the main event in 25 years, just as 25 years ago, the web did not even exist. And so I think we're at the very, very beginning of what is really going to be coming, and that among the things, in addition to AI and virtual reality, these kinds of things we can see right now, is a very large, I don't know what to call it, super organism, a machine that consists of all of us connected together with all of our phones, with all of our laptops, with all the machines in the world, with the Internet of everything, all 7 gazillion of these. That thing connected together is producing new behaviors, new phenomena that we're not at all familiar with, and that is the beginning.
Any civilized person today carries a magic window in their pocket that can access the world's knowledge, peer at detailed images of almost any spot on Earth, navigate from anywhere to anywhere else, and instantly communicate with anyone on the planet. Have we come even close to understanding how marvelously disruptive this is to the world order?
No, we haven't. I think that, as we lift ourselves into this and wire ourselves into this kind of new global thing, I think that both the nation state and the local politics become a little bit less important as much as this planetary enterprise and the kind of global culture that we're making right now. And I think we have global problems that require global solutions.
Kevin, let's dig into two subjects in a bit more depth that some people find scary: artificial intelligence and robots. Let's start with AI, which until very recently has been one of the most underperforming segments of the computer science business, but now seems to be taking off. Do we have anything to fear?
I think we have concerns, and they're legitimate concerns, but I don't think we have anything to fear. The concerns are real. There will be people who will lose jobs. There will be industries that will be overturned. There will be business models that will go out of existence. Yet, in the sum, the new benefits, the new jobs that are created from this kind of automation of AI and robots will exceed the number of jobs lost. There will be better jobs for humans. And overall, the benefits will outweigh the real costs.
That's always been true of every technology in the past. I don't know why this would be any different. You make the analogy that AI is going to be like electricity, ubiquitous, available from a spigot, and capable of being infused into almost anything. You call this cognifying. Give us some more depth on that.
Yeah, it's very similar to the first industrial revolution, which has really made the world that we see around us and all the benefits that we have currently came from the fact that we made artificial power. We were able to harness the fossil fuels and carbon-based fuels to make something that exceeded our ability to use our muscles and the animal muscles. So when you drive down a car, you're harnessing 250 horses. Right at the little button you have there, very cheaply. And right now what we're going to do is make artificial intelligence so that in addition to the 250 horses you have in your car, we'll have 250 minds that will be driving it. And that kind of mindfulness, that kind of artificial smartness can be distributed like electricity did and that synthetic artificial power that transformed factories and households. We're now going to send on the same wires or through the cloud this artificial smartness, which can be applied anywhere we want to in the way that we apply power to anything. And that will be basically make a second industrial revolution.
Well, you point out that when electricity first became widely available, many, many businesses, products, and fortunes were started just by adding electric motors to things. Give us an example of some of the everyday things we might add AI to.
Right. And by the way, the people who were adding the electricity were so complicated at that time that many companies had the VP of electricity. All right? So it was messy, it was esoteric, required expertise. And of course, eventually this became the norm and invisible. And that's also what will happen with AI. And when we apply AI, we'll apply it to things as diverse as, hey, let's take taxi cabs and add AI. That's called Uber.
Yep.
All right. So there won't be hardly anything. The more obscure the thing from food delivery to knitting to teaching will all be energized and elevated just as we electrified them. We're not going to cognify them.
How would I use AI in my toilet?
Have you been to Japan? The Japanese have AI in their toilets, and what it does is it actually can tell that you need to be warmed. It can actually clean your bottom in different ways, and it knows. It can even recognize you. It knows that you're not your spouse, and it will there treat you a little differently, as it should.
If you combine AI with future versions of Siri on a smartphone, will we all one day be walking around with this omniscient Ansible in our ear, much like the science fiction character Ender in Orson Scott Card's Speaker for the Dead?
I think we will. I think we will have, but probably not just one. We'll probably have several. Several meaning that there'll be different varieties, and some people will prefer one type over another, depending on their personality. And of course, there'll be fashions. And somebody will say, "You're still using that one? Have you heard about Henry? Henry treats me nicer." Of course, we'll be able to choose their degree that they are present in it. Some people prefer to have somebody who is always around. Some people may object to the nagging sensibility that some will have. We will personalize the way in which they deal with that. Of course, they will be smart enough to notice our moods. And different people will have different uses for them. Some people will be concerned about their financing and want be able to kind of look over the shoulder in their purchases. Others want nothing to do with that. They want advice about their fashion. So this is a wide open thing, many different types, not a single case, but I do think that they will be present. And the best way to think about the internet in the future is not a place like cyberspace, but as a presence that's always there.
So this will be like a personalized spirit we converse with all day long, looks over our shoulder, answers our questions, and finds out stuff for us?
And most importantly, anticipates things. The whole point, I think, of a lot of this technology is to anticipate. So the idea that they can deduce, just as a good friend might, where we're going to go in a few minutes or where we're going to go this morning based on where we have been in the rest of the day, and can prepare us in some ways to this. And it's like your GPS. Imagine a GPS for your life, where it's always trying to think ahead. And if you decide not to do it, it just changes plans and offers you a new plan. It's not upset. You can just keep changing your plans as much as possible, but it's always thinking ahead. Well, you should be here. I'll prepare this packet for you. I'll get this ready. Oh, you're not going to go there? No problem. Here's another path.
You make it all sound so wonderful. What is this singularity that dystopian fearmongers keep talking about?
This is this idea, which is very legitimate, a possibility. It's kind of a myth like Superman, that we're going to make an intelligence explosion that will make an AI that's, quote, smarter than us, unquote, and that AI will make an AI smarter than itself, and that AI will make one smarter, and then each time it does it, it's doing a little faster, so all of a sudden, to our perspective, there is this God that knows everything, that will solve cancer, give us immortality so we can live forever. I think that's unlikely. And in that, of course, is the idea that the becomes so smart that it doesn't need us, and so it might, along the way, just get rid of us.
Right.
The reality of AIs is that they think differently than humans. They have a very different kind of intelligence, and I say they because there'll be 1,000, maybe a million different species of thinking than AI, all of them with a particular instrument of cognition or a basket of them that are different than ours. We think humans have general purpose intelligence. This is completely wrong. We have a very, very specific kind of intelligence, a variety, a mixture of it. We're out in the corner. And just like there was a Copernican revolution, which overthrew our idea that we were at the center and everything else was revolving around it, we have this idea that at the center is this general purpose human intelligence and there's always satellite intelligence. No. We're at the edge of the galaxy. We're a very peculiar, fixed kind of intelligence in the land of all possible intelligences. And our job right now is to make up those millions different kinds of thinking so that we can actually solve some of our most difficult problems.
Fascinating. Kevin, let's move on to robots, which appear to be freaking a lot of people out. Some say that robots are going to steal everyone's job as capital replaces labor, creating vast armies of unemployed. And from the invention of the power loom to the tractor, this has never happened before. Why do people think it's going to happen now?
Because we see ourselves as primarily thinking machines. That's our definition of humanity. Each time an AI comes along and does something we thought only humans could do, we have to redefine ourselves, and that's becoming more and more frequent. So we're saying, well, what's left? If AI can do what we could do, there's nothing left for us to do. But actually, I think that we're much more complicated, and we can do things that are not just about different ways of thinking. And so that's where the fear comes. But in fact, what's happening is that these intelligences think differently than humans, and we work together. So today, the best chess player in the world is not an AI. It's not a human chess master either. It's the centaur. It's the team of the AI plus the chess master. The best medical diagnostician in the world is not Watson, an AI. It's not a doctor. It's Watson plus a doctor. And this idea that we're going to work with the AIs rather than against them, I think is a really important thing to know.
So forecast some white-collar jobs that might radically be changed by AI and robots in the near future.
Well, I don't have to talk about the near future. It's already happening. Paralegals, going through legal evidence, is done much better with an AI. Diagnosing X-rays in a hospital, much better done with AI. Flying a jet plane. The human pilots only fly 7 to 8 minutes of a typical flight. The rest of the time is the AI. Mortgage lending, going to be AI. any job that can be defined in terms of its efficiency or productivity is a job that's going to go to the bots. Productivity is for robots.
You know, as a burned-out venture capitalist growing increasingly pessimistic about the state of our innovation economy, you made a comment that really knocked me back in my chair. You wrote that there has never been a better day in the whole history of the world to invent something new than today. Why?
Because we're just getting started, because we have all these tools based on the shoulders and the work of many generations previous, and those barriers to doing something new on yourself without asking permission are the lowest they've ever been. And yet, at the same time, the biggest, most important inventions that will rule people's lives in 25 years have not been invented yet. Therefore, you are not late.
Kevin, let's close with a confession you made toward the end of your book that really hit home. I can no longer tell when I'm working and when I'm playing online. Wow. Me too. Should I feel guilty?
No, this is what we're working for. This is the whole point. I thought the whole idea when I was a kid was that we wouldn't have been robots, so we didn't have to work at all. So I think this is exactly what we want.
Kevin, I thank you for your optimism, and thanks so much for coming on the show. Good luck with the book.
Well, thanks a lot.
That was Kevin Kelly, co-founder and Senior Maverick at Wired magazine and the author of The Inevitable, Understanding the 12 Technological Forces That Will Shape Our Future, here on Real Clear Radio Hour, brought to you by the Competitive Enterprise Institute. I'm your host, Bill Frezza. Real Clear Radio Hour is a not-for-profit, donor-supported program produced in conjunction with Real Clear Politics, America's premier independent political website. To make sure you don't miss any of our shows, stop by realclearradio.org and sign up for updates. Build your brand by aligning it with high-quality content on Real Clear Radio Hour. For corporate underwriting opportunities, contact producer at realclearradio.org. Currently broadcast 24 times weekly on 15 stations in 13 cities, streaming 15 times on 11 outlets with 3 permanent podcasts, Real Clear Radio serves a thoughtful and growing audience. Ahead, we'll speak with Ken Ono, mathematical consultant for the movie The Man Who Knew Infinity, about the remarkable story of the Indian math genius Srinivasa Ramanujan and Ken's quest to find the next hidden prodigy. Stay tuned.